Things Unexplained. Hosted by Dr. Mounts.
Let's face it, we were always ready to roll without him anyway.
CJ Derringer.
Ain't nobody perfect, right?
And Smitty Neves.
I've never planned out hardly anything my whole life. I just freeball.
Featuring Cajun Man.
I'm just old nobody, somebody looking for somebody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to All Things Unexplained. I am CJ Derringer here with my lovely co-hosts, Dr. Tim Mounts and Smitty Neves. How are you guys doing?
It's good to be back.
Okay.
Awesome.
How's it going? Going pretty good, I reckon.
Going well. Yes,
Just
we are excited to dive into new territory tonight. We are going to be bringing some unexplained updates to our listeners. These are going to be some weird, wacky, unexplained news stories from all across the globe that we want to dive into, find out a little bit more, share some fun things with you guys, maybe get a laugh or two, and keep it short and simple for you. Give you something to talk about other than, I don't know, COVID and politics.
Yeah, who needs it? By the way, if you're watching on YouTube Live, thanks. Welcome. We appreciate you. Feel free to chime in. We'll put your comments up on the screen. If you're listening on the podcast, awesome. We'll put the link to the YouTube video in the podcast notes. Well, though, nobody has commented that.
I am
so.
as good looking in person. So.
Well, I have to say, in doing research for this podcast, it was a whole lot more fun to be looking for weird and wacky things online than everything that we're reading about every single day.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So
CJ,
hopefully this gives people
I was thinking
more
we
to
could go backwards, right? Like our top three,
COVID.
but do our number three story first.
All
from
anybody
each
talks
of
about.
us.
So let's dive in. Oh, that sounds
All right,
good.
yeah,
Well,
so my number
since you
three
clearly
story
were
of the
thinking
week.
that through, why don't you start us off?
Headline,
Because my
British
guess is you already know
Columbia,
what order yours
Canada.
go then.
So a lady is sleeping in her bed, right, in British Columbia, and all of a sudden she thinks she hears a tree falling, and wouldn't you know it, but a meteor crashed through the roof of her house and landed in her bed. So I love this quote this is from CTV News Vancouver. The police officer came and said, "Well, I think you have a meteorite in your bed." The meteorite weighed about 2.8 pounds, is the size of a large adult fist. And Hamilton, who I believe that's the police officer, shared that the meteorite, actually the woman was Ruth Hamilton. Oh. And we should probably try to get her on the show. This will be fascinating to hear her tell this. But she actually shared the meteorite with researchers at the University of Western Ontario. Now, another thing I thought that was super cool about this is it had a lot of witnesses in the area that actually saw the fireball streaking across the sky, and it just happened to hit poor Ruth's house.
That's incredible.
Well, maybe she had State Farm insurance.
What are you wearing, Jake?
To call Jake. See if she can get some money off that. I'm pretty sure that would be covered. That's a natural disaster, so she could probably be covered.
You are so right. It does remind me of who does the one commercial? It might be an Allstate commercial where they go through the museum.
He's wearing khakis, even for
insurance
meteorites.
Claims that they've covered before.
Yeah.
But I will tell you what
definitely needs to be on that commercial.
I will tell you what it reminds me of, CJ and Smitty. And I think the folks there in British Columbia should count their lucky stars, no pun intended. But it reminds me of the Tunguska incident in remote Siberia, where basically the entire forest and everything around for miles was leveled. They never did figure out exactly what happened. Was that a dog? Anyway, they never did figure out exactly what happened, but it was probably a meteorite or something of that sort. And of course, that was like in 1918, I think. Yeah, it's been a while back.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that was about the year you were
Right
born.
then,
So
yeah. Clearly fresh in his memory.
that's a little bit of history.
For those of you that are just listening to the podcast
Yeah.
and not watching on
Actually,
YouTube
he
Live,
was
you're missing
probably
out on the faces Smitty is making at people who are making noises around him. Some unexplained faces going on there. But a meteorite crashing through my house. I don't know if it's a dream or a nightmare. I mean, that would be so cool.
My
what
luck,
a cool
the
story to
homeowners,
tell.
you've
But
got
having
hail
to
storm
patch
chasers from
holes in
the
your roof
insurance
is
company.
not exactly ideal.
From the roofers just basically stalking the storms. But my luck, the insurance wouldn't cover a meteorite explosion. So, yeah.
It's not in your policy. Meteorite is not in the policy.
That's
actually
scary.
had a friend, and they had a 18-wheeler.
Talk about a good reason to live back
18-wheeler
off the
tire?
highway.
So they had an
Oh my
18-wheeler tire
goodness.
crash through
That
the
is
front
scary.
window one morning.
Was that story out of Canada?
That was out of British Columbia, Canada. Yep. Ruth Hamilton.
Canada. So one of my stories is from Canada too. So things are just happening in Canada these days. But this one is in Newfoundland, Canada, which I always want to say Newfoundland, but
I thought
Newfoundland,
that's what it
Canada. This couple that loved this house on the side of the road. This woman had just loved this house that she drove by all the time. And they found out that the house was going to be torn down. So she and her boyfriend approached the owners of the property and said, "Hey, can we buy this property off of you? Can we buy this house off of your property and take the whole house from your property?" So that in and of itself seems crazy to me. But then they wanted to take the house to their property, and the best way to get it there was on water.
Oh, wow.
They had to take it on a half a mile of water to get to their property. And the video is phenomenal. You've got to watch the video if you have a chance. But what they did is they installed barrels underneath the house, tied to a metal frame, loaded with old tires. And then they pushed the house across the water with boats. Like the boats went behind the house that's on the barrels
Holy
and the
cow.
tires and pushed it across the water half a mile to get this house to this property that the people wanted it. And this story, by the way, comes from upi.com. But at the end, I love it. It says that actually the house went underwater up to
that's
the
not
second
good.
story window at one point. And now the house is just drying out in its new location, and the couple hopes to start the renovation soon. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about dedication to get a house.
That sounds like something that would happen in Mississippi. That literally sounds like something that would happen in Mississippi.
Yeah, it does. It would be the double-wide two-story trailer, though.
I just love that there was no fancy way to transport it there. They didn't rent some sort of barge or what have you. They literally got old tires and barrels and a piece of metal and put it on top and floated it across the water with boats pushing it from behind.
That's what we call redneck engineering.
Up north. Yeah, I feel like they
Redneck
should have.
engineering around here.
They should have just considered turning this house into a houseboat. I mean, why fool with getting it back off the water?
Oh, now there's an idea. That's a good point. I mean, just anchor it right there and call
Fish
it
right
good.
out your back door. They got walleye and
Oh, I
muskie
love
up
that
there and
story.
salmon too, I think. So that's what I would do.
There you go. Is there anything that you guys want so much that you could make that happen?
My third story is a body scan reveals in Alabama that there was a shotgun shell inside a prisoner in Alabama. It was a man being booked into an Alabama jail, wound up at a hospital after a scan revealed that a shotgun shell was in his abdomen. Now,
I was real nervous
I
what you were about to
don't
say.
know why you would swallow
In his
abdomen. I don't know why in the world you would swallow a shotgun shell, but I can see the x-ray here. It is literally the whole shotgun shell, which would be very difficult. I'm very familiar with shotgun shells. Would be very hard to get down your throat, I would think.
Yeah. And again, what's the
Who
reasoning?
knows? I mean,
Was there like a bag of cocaine in
Maybe
it?
some cigarettes are in there.
It is. I don't know. That's odd. That's even odd for the South. That's really weird. So, and I love the South. I love the South, but that's weird.
I mean, the only thing I can think is that maybe the shotgun shell wouldn't break down, and so something is hidden inside of the shotgun shell, and he
It
swallowed it,
doesn't
hoping
really
that he
give
would
a whole
then
lot of detail about
pass
that. He
it
just
later. And
says he had a 410, so that makes more sense. If it was a 410, it would have been a lot easier to swallow. He was never booked in, and when they saw that, he had to go to the hospital. A man who'd been arrested by another law enforcement
goodness.
agency was later released on his own recognizance. So nobody hit him in the stomach. I'll tell you. He says they do believe that there was some drugs in there, but it was unusual to find ammunition in someone's stomach. So, you know.
See, I think like a criminal.
Well, first of all,
I
wonder if they left it in there. Does it say if they took it out or not?
Yeah, they left it in there.
Oh.
I mean, I guess he's just going to pass it eventually. But, you know.
Second of all, we have a listener comment. So, and it's a theory, a listener theory.
Okay.
Actually, it sounds like more of a theory. It sounds like they literally know. It's from longtime listener George Winters, who happens to be from Alabama. He says that you actually do that in Alabama routinely to get ready for Alabama football games. So,
okay,
that's not
not
exactly what he said, but I'm paraphrasing.
Well, we don't do that to get ready for Mississippi State or Ole Miss games. I can tell you that right now.
No, you don't, because you know what? Mississippi State just lost on purpose to Alabama just to not help Ole Miss out. So thanks. Thanks a lot.
Whatever.
All right, Tim, bring us your numero dos.
I will. Number 2. Mysterious radio waves are radiating from an unknown object at the heart of the Milky Way, astronomers say. And I find this one of the most spookiest bits of news I've heard in a long time. Apparently all celestial objects do emanate radio waves, right? But apparently they're kind of patterned, and they know what all of them look like. Well, they have no idea what celestial object is sending these radio waves out. They're coming from the center of the galaxy. They vary dramatically and seem to shut off at random. The wave's origin is unknown. They hint at the existence of a new type of celestial object. The signal does not look like it comes from stars, planets, or even dead stars. What I find super interesting about this radio signal, apparently it disappeared for months, then reappeared suddenly, then vanished again. Now, when I first read this story, I immediately thought of Independence Day. I'm not gonna lie. There are giant motherships on the way, and this is the sign.
Well, you know what?
Somebody's trying to communicate.
MTV says video killed the radio star, so I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. Oh, maybe these aliens are bringing the radio back or something. I don't know. I hear they're bringing it back.
That was great.
In the 2000s. It's a weird universe sometimes.
It is. I saw that story, Tim. I think you must have posted it on our Facebook page. And I was reading it, and it is fascinating that all of these astronomers, scientists, nobody can explain what it is.
No, crazy, right? I mean,
so crazy.
It's just so, I mean, it's really weird and bizarre. And it's just something you don't often see astronomers just throw their hands up and say, we don't know. We don't know what it's making it, where it's coming
Baffled. That has to be an exciting time as an astronomer, though, to be like, whoa, there's something brand new out there. You know, all of these people are just chomping at the bit to try and learn more about it, research more. They want to be put on that project. Put me on that project.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, in terms of our awareness, just the general population, when you start listing off celestial objects, I mean, I feel like our knowledge is pretty limited. We can say things like stars, we can say planets, you know, asteroids, black holes. How many other things do we really know of in space that we can even rattle off, right? Like, it's super bizarre.
Yeah, well, us personally, that's about it.
Yeah.
I can say one. William Shatner.
Oh.
He was in space. That's a new one.
That's right.
He did go to space.
He sure did. Well, let's be honest. It was just the tip that went into space.
Oh, you know what I was about to say, Smitty? Let's not forget about Uranus.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Nobody wants to go near Uranus.
We better move on quick.
Yeah.
What is CJ's number 2?
Not trying to get there. Okay, so my number 2, speaking of just mysterious and unexplained things, is about the self-driving cars, the Waymo cars. Have you guys heard of these?
Waymo? Is that what you said?
Waymo. Okay, so we don't live anywhere cool enough to have Waymo cars yet, but someday in our near future we will. So these Waymo cars are Google's cars. They are self-driving. There's no driver. They drive around town. They act like Uber. They can pick passengers up and take them where they want to go. And all of these cars are learning different routes. I think that they're actually being used in Phoenix, Arizona right now. But there's a ton of them in San Francisco, and they are plaguing this poor neighborhood for absolutely no reason. All of these self-driving Waymo cars are going down to this dead end on 15th Avenue where they then have no choice but to turn around and leave. So one after another, some of the residents are saying about every 5 minutes, one of these cars just comes down the street, gets to a dead end, and has to turn around and leave. And this is from NPR. One of the residents named Jennifer King said, I noticed it while I was sleeping. I awoke to a strange hum that I thought was a spacecraft outside my window. And apparently there's about 50 cars a day that are just going up and down this poor street with no passengers, no driver, for seemingly no reason, plaguing this poor neighborhood of all of these people who are working from home and just trying to get their job done. And it's taken over Twitter. Everybody's posting pictures of these annoying Waymo cars coming down their street.
That's weird. That is crazy. You know, I think that's what they call West Coast tailgating. There's no football, right? So they just it's the Waymo car tailgate. But they have Waymo other things there, like surfing.
That is really weird.
They do have Waymo.
Earthquakes.
Right.
Waymo earthquakes.
Fires. Waymo fires.
people
Waymo self-driving cars.
in general. Well,
Waymo people.
yeah.
Waymo marijuana.
I don't know. I do live in Mississippi, so I don't know about that last comment. But my next one is actually not new news, but it's something that I thought was of interest. It's the grave of Florence Irene Ford, and it's in at the time of this is in Natchez, Mississippi. It's in Natchez City Cemetery. Time of her death, Florence was 10, and she was scared to death by storms. So her mother had this grave built, and basically it was in addition to a specially made coffin that had a pane of clear glass at Florence's head. And the mother had stairs installed at the graveside so she could descend the stairs and sit with her daughter during scary storms. So imagine being in a graveyard when lightning and thundering and raining and all those types of things, and here you are sitting in a rocking chair next to your daughter's grave. That would be really creepy, I would think. I can't imagine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, imagine being the person visiting the gravesite during a storm, and suddenly some woman ascends from the ground.
You know, at one point in time in American history, they had a little bit of a problem burying people who were in a coma. So they started putting a bell, and putting a string down through the coffin where they could ring the bell if they woke up. It's weird.
Oh my goodness.
I tried to bury him out alive one time, but he dug his way out. But it was unfortunate. Yeah, he rung the bell.
He rung the bell.
Well, in case you didn't hear, that you could bury me upside down.
There's actually...
I think it has to do with the celestial bodies again.
Egypt? No, that's in Kruger, Mississippi.
Egypt... That's in rural Mississippi.
Yeah, well, this is actually Kruger. This was at the Egypt plantation. There was a lady in red. That's what her thing says. Lady in red found on Egyptian plantation, and she's buried there. She was born in 1835, died in 1969. That's her gravestone, Lady in Red.
Wait. She was born in 1835 and died in 1969.
Well, she would be...
That math doesn't add up.
Way too old,
wow.
Yeah.
She was...
okay. I see.
34 years old.
Unearthed. She was unearthed in 1969. I'm going to question this article. In a red dress that was encased in a glass-sealed cast-iron coffin. Okay. Apparently, she was well preserved, and so they reburied her, and they put the date of her reburial on there. So that's...
I feel like we're talking about some sort of Vlad the Impaler situation.
Maybe. There's all kind of weird graves.
Were there people on poles lining the streets as you enter rural Egypt, Mississippi?
There may be a few on
the way
poles,
to the lady in red's house.
I don't think they're probably just dancing. So,
I have to say, when I moved to North Carolina, it is so different here than California. I cannot believe how many times driving down the road, there's a random cemetery on the side of the street. I mean, I send my children to a preschool and there's a cemetery in their playground.
Really?
That would not happen in California. Like California, there's big, huge cemeteries in very specific locations. And here they just seem to be placed sporadically wherever. Maybe a family has a plot. Maybe you get buried at your church. There's just graveyards everywhere. And yes, there's a graveyard in my children's preschool play area. Like they're going down the slide and looking at headstones.
Wow. I don't know if you've noticed this, CJ, but there's lots of just family plots here on family land. There's one right down the road from here, and it's actually got an intriguing looking statue out there. and it sort of looks like a Confederate type of statue, and they have a flag flying, and you can see one tombstone out there. And that's just down the road from my house here, so definitely more common here.
So is that like that in Mississippi too?
Oh yeah, it's probably more so, I would imagine. I don't really know about North Carolina, but
Yeah.
there are cemeteries all over the place. You might have to walk, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile out in the middle of a field, and there'll be like a little bitty cemetery surrounded by an iron fence or something. So
Yeah, not only that, but in Mississippi, you make it clear early on where you are going to be buried at.
Oh yeah,
and you don't leave that up to anybody else either. You make sure that people know you're getting buried at, next to your family at the little place or whatever.
Yeah, I already have a cemetery plot. So does Marty.
Oh, there you go.
We already have plots.
Life made.
I've got a couple. You know what? I've actually got a few plots for sale in Ecru, Mississippi. I'm holding on to them right now, but if you know anybody interested.
Tim plans on never dying, so he doesn't need it.
Hey, Vlad the Impaler might know a few secrets, but it's true. A lot of people don't know you can sell cemetery plots. You know why? Because they're not. Everybody's dying to get in there. They're not making any more land for the cemetery. So
You
demand is high.
I hate to say it. That was botched very badly. My uncle used to mow the cemetery. I mean, my uncle's got 50 people under him. He used to mow the cemetery. Oh, but
demand is high. But it's true. You know what? And they appreciate. I mean, they're valuable. So it's a worthy investment.
I came up with this one. What's Walmart and the junior high building have in common?
Lots of Axe body
Walmart.
spray.
Both have way too much Axe body
Nailed
spray.
it. Nailed it. I got it.
They got too much Axe body spray, that's for sure.
Don't go near the testing station. Holy cow.
Oh man, Axe body spray is so potent. Oh, yeah.
You can't even light a match around those kids. They'd be up like.
Hey,
You lighting lots of cigarettes around?
that's what I was wondering.
I meant a match. I don't smoke. I meant a match. I don't know why I said cigarette. I'm just used to Mounts being across the hall from me, so he'd be smoking in his classroom.
But you know what? When I was in junior high and high school, we had a smoking section in school, and now I know why the big hair girls never went over there, because they had some highly flammable hair.
Yeah, that was back in the 80s,
but
the 1880s. Maybe,
well, it was right on the side of the industrial arts trailer, and that was the smoking section. So if you dipped, if you had skull, if cigarettes were your thing, that's where you went during break. You didn't go to the concession stand and get nacho rings like the rest of us. You went out there and smoked. So you remember nacho rings, Smitty?
I don't know. I know of Funyuns, but I don't know about nacho rings.
Yeah, they're kind of like Funyuns.
I remember.
Yeah, they're kind of like Funyuns, but they're nacho flavored, and they're a little stubby, like tater tots.
Do you remember conquistadors? Do you remember the conquistadors? They were like, what's those things that we eat? They're like little pizza things. Oh shoot!
Hot Pockets.
No, what's those things? I'm trying to get my family to. They're not helping out too much
pizza
here.
rolls. Yeah, because you told him to be quiet.
No, you can buy them. You get them in a bag. They're like a snack.
Pizza rolls.
Like bugles.
Food. No, they're dang it, I can't remember. We used to sell them in the school store. But those were conquistadors. They were so good.
I never heard of those.
But on that.
I could tell you what my favorite candy bar during junior high was.
Oh, what was it?
Whatchamacallit.
That's mine. That was mine too.
I don't think I've ever had a whatchamacallit.
Classic.
Oh, it's good. It's really good.
Do you know what else?
We used to go to the school store and you'd have the wax paper cups, and they put the Coke in the wax paper cups, and then you'd get a whatchamacallit. Man, that was
Do you
good.
know what I
Healthy stuff.
realized recently? It's kind of like those things you see online where it says, I was today years old when I discovered uh, the lid on the fry boxes to hold your ketchup, for example. I saw that, but I only just recently discovered there's a big black market on eBay and other places for these foods that they don't make anymore or that are super hard to find. So, if you've got some kind of cola, let's say Crystal Pepsi or something that they made back in the day, people will pay top dollar for that.
Well, what do you have that you
I
could
was
sell?
wrong. Those things are called corn quistos. Corn quistos, not corn conquistadors, which is Spanish for conqueror, but they're called corn quistos. Man, I love those things. I would probably pay some top dollar for those things right now.
Well, let's look them
So
up. Let's see what the All Things Unexplained budget looks like. We can look them up. And great
I would.
comment from listener George Winters, who thanks for backing me up on this, George, by the way. Apparently, the cemetery plot in between Hugh Hefner and Marilyn Monroe just sold for $2 million. So, just like
Oh
I
my
was
goodness.
saying,
Wow.
top dollar, people want to get in a prime spot.
Yeah.
Well, real
One of them
estate
was
in
on
California is expensive
barbiturates.
anyways.
One of them was on barbiturates. The other one was on Viagra. So
Do you think?
both of them are dead. So
I don't think one of them was on Viagra. Do you think JFK is in that cemetery?
he might be. At least he's a zombie. But
Zombie
Because Marilyn
JFK.
Monroe's there.
Yeah. But I guess a whole lot of other people would
All
be
right,
there
Tim.
if that was the qualification.
Take us to your number one unexplained news story for this week.
All right, number one unexplained story for the week, and the most disturbing by far, in my opinion. Super scary. And by the way, it ties into some of our old stories and interviews with people. So China apparently, much to our dismay, the U.S. had no idea China was capable of this. Just tested a nuclear capable hypersonic missile. It apparently went around the globe, circled the globe, and not only did it do that, but it did it via the South Pole.
Oh, wow.
Where missiles or such things are harder to detect. So it reached orbit, circled the globe in orbit now, and then rapidly proceeded to its target. Now, it apparently missed by quite a bit. I don't know, 24 miles or something, which seems like a lot. But that's just scary. And the U.S. says, hey, we have no idea China could do this. We don't even know how they're doing it. We don't know what the technology is. And you remember a while back where we had the folks from Board Camp Crystal Mine on, and we started digging into the hypersonic missiles?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so
mhm.
we didn't know, that the one lady from Board Camp Crystal Mine, she looked out her plane, and she saw something. She sent us those great photos. And we were debating, is that actually a missile being tested, or could it be the vehicle, the space-capable vehicle that delivers these missiles into orbit? And that's exactly what China just did, in which we claim we had no idea. So they compared it to, imagine a space shuttle, and you've basically got no landing gear, carrying this nuclear capable missile into orbit and then blasting it off. Now, the key difference, though, between this hypersonic missile or this craft or both and traditional weaponry is that they can change course on the way. So imagine they can get completely new instructions from the operator and just change course to a new target. Now,
yeah, it's terrifying.
I did. And it made me wonder, as far as nuclear abilities, And China, the news said, has developed, I think, 120 something new nuclear silos recently. And I couldn't think of too many reasons why you even need a nuclear silo. I mean, I could only think of one. One reason.
Yeah.
Just shoot nukes.
But it did make me wonder, as far as nuclear warheads, how do we compare to other countries like China, France, the UK? So I looked it up. China has 350 nuclear warheads that we know of. Pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
France has 290. The UK has 225 that we know of. Do you want to know how many the United States has?
How many?
Me.
5,550.
Yeah.
You think
Not
we aren't
surprising.
ready for Armageddon?
Sounds like it. Side note, I just joined a Facebook group that's trying to bring back conquistos. My bad.
All while Tim was giving the serious note about hypersonic
I can't get my
missiles and
mind
the
off
future of the
conquistos
world.
now.
I think it ties into the nuclear Armageddon in that we are working on the All Things Unexplained bunker. We're taking applications for. We only have a few spots left in it.
We've got one spot between
that's
Committee and one
probably-
between Dr. Mounts, and it's $2 million.
Yeah,
One of these doomsday preppers bought all the conquistos up, and they're sitting somewhere in like Wisconsin in a underground bunker, waiting for nuclear annihilation to take place or something. So, please, guys, if you have conquistos, send them in to All Things Unexplained.
Or conquistadors.
Yeah. I was trying to think. I was
we would
they're
take either.
very similar. They're similar to combos. That's what I was going to say. Combos.
Conquistos, that's what they're called?
Yes.
Okay, well, we got to have
Oh,
something for the bunker.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know. If you could find those, I'll come to the bunker today. I'll get in the car and start driving, like right now.
They must be pretty good.
Well, I can't find any for sale, so I bet they're a pretty penny. Whoever has them.
Yeah, probably so.
Because they don't exist.
We will continue on the silly side for my final story of the evening. And this also comes from NPR because, well, I love me some NPR. But the title is, "A New Zealand City is Taking Its Official Wizard Off the Payroll After 2 decades." And oh my goodness, please do yourself a favor and look this guy up. I mean, he is just fantastic. Just the picture of him alone is really, really great.
What's his name?
So that's a good question. Let me see if I can find that for you. I had it here somewhere. But so this guy has been on the payroll since 1998 as the official wizard of Christchurch, New Zealand. He's been paid the equivalent of $11,000 to provide acts of wizardry and other wizard-like services as part of promotional work for the city of Christchurch. So he pretty much just sits in the center of the town, conversations. Apparently, this all started one day when he was up there just speaking his mind and speaking very philosophically about things, and police tried to arrest him, and the entire town went up in arms about it, not wanting him to be arrested, and from there he ended up becoming the wizard of this town. But since then, he's gotten himself into a little bit of trouble because he doesn't exactly fit the model of what they are trying to advertise to tourists in their city anymore. And he said a few things that got him into hot water. Reminder. I am not saying these things. This is what he said, and
What
this
did he
is why
say?
he lost his job as the wizard. It's about women. He said, "I love women. I forgive them all the time. I've never struck one yet. Never strike a woman because they bruise too easily is the first thing, and they'll tell their neighbors and their friends, and you're in big trouble." Shocker that he lost his job, I'm sure. But he came back saying that he lost his job because they're a bunch of bureaucrats that have no imagination.
So I've actually found some pictures. You see this, Smitty and CJ?
Yeah, I've got him on my computer here too. And this dude looked like Gandalf or something off of the Lord of the Rings. So I bet Gandalf wouldn't hit a woman. I bet Gandalf would not hit a woman. So.
I mean, I think that he was joking when he said that, or at least I hope that he was, but still, you just can't get away with those things anymore. But his website is wizard.gen, GEN.NZ, if anybody wants to take a look. And at the end, it says, although almost completely out of control or given psychotherapy, and is still working on his synthetic cosmology whilst keeping the people of New Zealand entertained. Oh, wow. Boy.
Yeah. Great comment, George.
The character.
Say it ain't so, Dumbledore.
This guy.
He really did look a lot like Dumbledore.
Yeah, he kind of does.
Oh man. Yeah.
I wonder what his pay was.
It was $11,000 US.
Wow. So,
but
are they hiring a new one?
No, they're not hiring a new one. But he has an entire exhibit in some museum somewhere that's all dedicated to him and his life's work and what he does and the Wizard of Christchurch. So apparently the exhibit is staying, but
I would love to get that guy on the show.
But if you're looking for a new job, I know. We'll ask him to keep his comments about women to himself. But yeah, we've got to hear his story. I mean, his whole thing is about, I quote, reviving the ancient art of rhetoric.
I can appreciate that.
So
I feel like we're trying to do that.
Yeah,
ourselves.
Absolutely. So he just stands in the middle of town talking to people about philosophical ideas.
Heck yeah.
The one quote that I shared is not a representation of who this guy is, but it's why he lost his job.
All right.
And now,
I love it.
Maybe you can be the next Wizard of Christchurch.
Yeah. You do kind of look like
Harry Potter. I feel like Smitty's partly qualified for that.
Yeah. I'm growing my beard out, so, All right, my story is one that is kind of creepy. It's the Lynchburg Museum receives the infamous rocking cradle from the best-known ghost story they claim of the city. The rocking cradles from the 1800s. It was a haunted local home, and it generated like 2 centuries of ghost stories. And it was donated to the museum by a local man who are direct descendants of the original 19th century owners. For mounts, that would be in the 1800s, if you don't know when the 19th century is. But according to them, the cradle starts to rock vigorously without anyone touching it in the home of Reverend William and Laura Smith. This is on Jackson Street. And of course, after the minister moved to the middle upper room, he commanded it to rock by itself in the name of the devil. And again, began rocking. And we're talking about rocking back and forth, not rock and roll. So, hundreds of visitors came to see the cradle and its peers in a local lore, and they later returned it to the Early family, and they hid it in the attic, removed the rockers. Apparently, it couldn't rock without the rockers. So, it is there in the museum, and some people say that they should have burned it. they'll be reattaching the rockers, they said. And the rockers were not attached. The originals were actually burned, it says. So I guess they burned them at the stake. They burned.
Oh, wow.
You've been listening to All Things Unexplained. If you liked this podcast, please do give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. If you would like to hear more All Things Unexplained, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you'd like to support our show, please do visit buymeacoffee.com/unexplained. A special thanks to our producer, director, sound mixer, editor, and the man that wears far too many hats. No, seriously, he has a lot of hats, Dr. Tim Mounts. Without you, we couldn't keep the lights on. Thanks for listening to All Things Unexplained.